Paul White. Paul White, better known as The Big Show, was once billed as the world's largest athlete. Standing over 7 feet tall and weighing more than 500 pounds during his WWE prime, his sheer size made him a one-of-a-kind spectacle. Whether he was chokeslamming opponents or flipping between heel and babyface turns, fans always remembered his gigantic frame. But after decades of carrying all that weight, White's health took a toll. By the time he signed with AEW in 2021, fans were stunned to see him slim down dramatically. The once massive giant now sports a leaner, fitter look, dropping well over 100 pounds thanks to hip surgeries, a new diet, and intense workouts. While his transformation was positive for his health, many fans still can't believe how much smaller and older he looks compared to his peak WWE years. The man once famous for his enormous bulk is almost unrecognizable today, proof that even giants can shrink with time. And while Paul shed size for health reasons, this next name slimmed down for a very different purpose, one that had Hollywood buzzing. The Rock. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has always been larger than life, both in WWE and Hollywood. During the Attitude Era, he had a lean, athletic frame that matched his people's champion persona. But once his movie career took off, The Rock began bulking up more and more, until by the mid-2000s, he looked like a comic book superhero brought to life. That's why fans were stunned in 2025 when photos surfaced of The Rock looking noticeably leaner. The change sparked online speculation, with some fans even asking if he was finally off steroids. But Johnson set the record straight. At the Toronto International Film Festival, he revealed that his slim down was intentional for his role in Lizard Music, where he plays a quirky 70-something character known as the Chicken Man. After packing on muscle for the Smashing Machine, Johnson had to reverse course, focusing on gut health, eating less chicken, and embracing a new fitness philosophy. While some fans miss the larger-than-life build, The Rock's latest transformation shows his dedication to acting and proves he's still willing to reinvent himself decades after first electrifying WWE. But while The Rock's physical changes have come by design, this next wrestler's transformation came through tragedy and personal struggle, leaving him almost unrecognizable from his WCW glory days. Buff Bagwell. Marcus "Buff" Bagwell was once one of WCW's most flamboyant stars. With his sculpted body, flashy entrance, and constant posing, he looked like a walking action figure in the 1990s. His physique and charisma fit perfectly into WCW's over-the-top presentation, and he seemed destined to be a breakout star. But life after wrestling wasn't kind to Buff. Following WCW's collapse and a short, disappointing WWE stint, Bagwell's personal struggles began to overshadow his career. Years of injuries, painkillers, and substance abuse left him looking drastically different. Recent mugshots and social media appearances shocked fans, as the once jacked star looked frail, tired, and scarred by addiction. While Bagwell has made efforts at recovery and spoken openly about his struggles, his transformation is a harsh reminder of how quickly the wrestling lifestyle can take its toll. The once buff Bagwell no longer resembles the chiseled bodybuilder fans saw in WCW, making his change one of the most dramatic on this list. And while Bagwell's decline is heartbreaking, the next name is just as shocking. A powerhouse who once looked like a future world champion, only to change so much that fans can hardly believe it's the same man. Ahmed Johnson. In the mid-90s, Ahmed Johnson looked like a superhero come to life. With his massive arms and barrel chest, he was built like few others in WWE history. Within just a year of his debut, Ahmed made history as the first African-American Intercontinental Champion, and many believed he was destined for the main event scene. His powerhouse physique was one of the main reasons Vince McMahon pushed him so quickly. But Ahmed's rise was short-lived. Behind the scenes, injuries piled up, and there were rumors of clashes with management. By 1998, Ahmed left WWE, and about a year later he surfaced in WCW under the name Big T. Fans could hardly believe it was the same man. His once chiseled frame had been replaced with significant weight gain, and his agility was gone. Eventually, WCW cut ties with him because his conditioning made it impossible to perform at a high level. Today, Ahmed Johnson is almost unrecognizable from his WWE prime. He's no longer in ring shape, and his physique has completely changed from the days when he was hyped as wrestling's next big star. His transformation remains one of the most shocking in wrestling history. And while Ahmed's downfall came quickly, this next wrestler's transformation took years, the result of tragedy, addiction, and an almost unbelievable disappearance. Perry Saturn. Perry Saturn was never the flashiest star, but fans respected his intensity in the ring. After making his name in ECW and WCW, Saturn jumped to WWE in 2000 alongside Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Dean Malenko. While his peers went on to become champions, Saturn's career was cut short by injuries and personal struggles. In 2004, while recovering from an ACL injury, Saturn's life took a shocking turn. He intervened to stop two men from assaulting a woman outside a club, but during the fight, he was shot in the neck and shoulder. Although he survived, the pain led him into drug addiction. For years, Saturn disappeared, with even his family not knowing if he was alive. When he finally resurfaced in 2010, fans could hardly believe their eyes. The once muscular, intimidating star looked frail, aged, and worn down by years of hardship. Though Saturn eventually overcame his addiction, his appearance still tells the story of what he endured. Fans who remember his prime in WCW and WWE are often shocked at how drastically different he looks today. But while Saturn's transformation was tied to real-life tragedy, this next man's changes came from years of wasted potential and erratic behavior. Marty Jannetty. In the late 80s and early 90s, Marty Jannetty was one half of the Rockers alongside Shawn Michaels. The team brought energy, athleticism, and charisma, and many thought Marty could be just as big of a star as his partner. But once the Rockers split, their careers went in opposite directions. Shawn Michaels became one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, while Jannetty's career was derailed by personal issues. Marty still wrestled for years on the independent circuit, but his lifestyle caught up to him. Multiple arrests, health scares, and erratic social media posts painted a picture of a man struggling outside the ring. Physically, the once lean high flyer is almost unrecognizable. Weight gain, aging, and health problems have left him looking far removed from the energetic rocker fans remember. Today, Marty Jannetty is often used as a cautionary tale in wrestling circles. His transformation, both in appearance and career trajectory, is a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change. And while Marty's decline shocked fans who once cheered for him as part of the Rockers, the next entry is perhaps even more heartbreaking. A hardcore legend whose violent style left him scarred for life. Abdullah the Butcher. Abdullah the Butcher was one of the first true hardcore wrestlers, carving out a reputation for violence around the world. He started wrestling in the late 1950s at the age of 17, and for decades he became known for his blood-soaked matches. Abdullah's forehead told the story, covered in deep scars from years of blading himself to deliver the gore fans expected. But his career of punishment came with a heavy cost. After finally retiring in his late 60s, Abdullah's health collapsed. He became confined to a wheelchair and needed daily assistance just to live. Things grew worse in 2024 when the WWE Hall of Famer was hospitalized due to intestinal issues. Fans feared the worst. Thankfully, in 2025, a surprising turnaround came. Abdullah began working with Diamond Dallas Page and started DDP Yoga. Videos showed the once broken legend raising his arms above his head and even dressing himself, tasks he couldn't manage before. While he still bears the scars of a violent career, Abdullah's story is now one of resilience. Still, while Abdullah's recovery has been inspiring, this next entry shows the opposite. A former WWE star whose post-wrestling appearances have left fans shocked and saddened. Virgil. Virgil rose to fame in the late 1980s as the bodyguard for the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Tall, muscular, and intimidating, he played the silent enforcer role perfectly. When he finally broke free from DiBiase, Virgil looked ready to make a name for himself, but the momentum never lasted. His WWE career faded, and years later, his name became better known for memes than matches. In recent years, Virgil's appearances at conventions and autograph signings shocked fans. He often looked frail and worn down, a far cry from the lean bodyguard of the 80s. In 2022, Virgil revealed he was suffering from dementia and colon cancer, adding to the heartbreak. Photos of him hunched over tables, struggling to interact with fans, spread online, many finding it hard to believe this was the same man who once stood tall in the ring. Virgil's transformation is one of the saddest on this list. Once a strong and imposing presence, he now struggles with everyday health battles. And while Virgil's story is tragic, this next man's tale may be even more shocking, because he was once considered the very definition of the total package. Lex Luger. Lex Luger was billed as wrestling's total package, and for good reason. A former bodybuilder, he had the kind of sculpted physique promoters dreamed of. WWE even tried to make him the next Hulk Hogan in the early 90s, sending him across America on the Lex Express to rally fans. And while he never reached those heights, Luger still had a long, successful career as one of wrestling's most physically impressive performers. But Luger's health took a devastating turn in the mid-2000s. A freak spinal injury left him temporarily paralyzed, and though he recovered somewhat, he never returned to his old self. Over the years, his once muscular frame withered away. By 2021, Luger was completely wheelchair-bound and looked drastically different from the bronzed bodybuilder fans remembered. Yet in early 2025, fans saw a glimmer of hope. Thanks to Diamond Dallas Page's DDP yoga program, Luger began showing signs of improvement. In a heartwarming video, he managed to stand with assistance and smiled as he made progress many thought impossible. Still, his transformation from the total package to his fragile current state remains one of the most shocking in wrestling history. And while Luger's decline is softened by a hopeful comeback story, the next wrestler on this list went down a darker path, from fan-favorite diva to inmate serving nearly 2 decades behind bars. Sunny. In the 1990s, Sunny was the most popular female figure in WWE. She wasn't a wrestler, but as a manager and personality, she became one of the most downloaded women on the internet and was even named Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Manager of the Year. At one point, she was arguably the most famous woman in wrestling. But behind the glamour, Sunny's life unraveled. After leaving WWE, she struggled with substance abuse and multiple arrests. Throughout the 2010s, she was in and out of jail for DUIs and probation violations, and things took a tragic turn in 2022. Driving under the influence, she caused a crash in Florida that killed a 75-year-old man. She was later sentenced to 17.5 years in prison. Today, the once glamorous Sunny looks completely different. Courtroom photos show her worn down by years of reckless choices, leaving fans stunned at the transformation. And while Sunny's story is tragic, the next man's change is shocking in a different way, because his once superhuman physique has deflated with time. Scott Steiner. Big Papa Pump. Scott Steiner is remembered for one of wrestling's most outrageous physiques. In WCW's late 90s boom, Steiner looked like a comic book character come to life. Muscles stacked on muscles, his bleached blonde hair and wild promos making him unforgettable. His freakish size earned him the nickname the Genetic Freak, and he lived up to it. But keeping up that size came at a cost. As Steiner aged, his body inevitably shrank. Today, he still looks like a strong man, but nowhere near the monster he was in his prime. Recent fan photos show him thinner, with gray hair, looking like a completely different person than the Big Papa Pump who once terrorized WCW. Steiner's transformation is a reminder that even the biggest physiques in wrestling eventually fade. And while his change came with age, this next wrestler's downfall came from years of poor choices and a body pushed to the brink. Justin Credible. As Aldo Montoya in WWE, he was a forgettable masked mid-carder. But in ECW, rebranded as Justin Credible, he became a top star, even winning the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. For a time, he was one of the faces of hardcore wrestling. After ECW folded, Credible returned to WWE, but his career never reached the same heights. Worse, his life spiraled. Addiction and bad decisions caught up with him, leading to arrests, public incidents, and accusations of scamming fans. Videos surfaced of him intoxicated at indie shows, and in one infamous clip, he pulled up his pant leg to reveal a disturbing infected wound. Today, Just Incredible looks completely different from his ECW days. Frail, worn down, and scarred by addiction, he's become a cautionary tale about wrestling's darker side. And while his story is tragic, the next entry is surprising in a different way, because this man chose to reinvent himself, and in doing so, completely changed his body. Batista. During his WWE career, Batista earned the nickname The Animal for good reason. With arms like tree trunks and a ripped frame, he looked like a modern-day gladiator. Even in his final match at WrestleMania 35 in 2019, Batista still looked larger than life. But when he turned his focus to acting, Batista realized his size was actually holding him back. Hollywood didn't need a 290-pound powerhouse. It needed a versatile actor. Batista slimmed down by over 100 pounds, adopting a leaner look that surprised fans used to his WWE build. Today, he looks like a completely different man, smaller, more natural, and more comfortable in his own skin. While some miss the jacked-up animal of WWE, Batista himself says he feels healthier and more confident now. And if his transformation was a surprise, this next one was a shock, because it came from a man once known as the world's strongest, Mark Henry. When Mark Henry signed with WWE in 1996, he already had an impressive resume, the world's strongest man and an Olympic powerlifter. WWE quickly promoted his unbelievable strength, even booking feats of power like pulling trucks and bending frying pans. At over 400 pounds, Henry's massive frame wasn't just size, it was functional muscle mixed with brute force. For years, Henry struggled to find his place, but in the early 2000s, he reinvented himself with his Hall of Pain persona. During this run, he became a world champion and was presented as one of the most dominant monsters in WWE history. His sheer size combined with his veteran confidence made him a believable powerhouse who could crush anyone in his path. But after retiring from active wrestling, Henry's look changed dramatically. He dropped a significant amount of weight, slimming down in a way that left fans almost speechless when they saw photos of him at conventions and appearances. The once 400-pound giant now looked like an older, leaner man, no longer the intimidating force who dominated WWE rings. Henry himself has embraced the transformation, admitting that after decades of carrying that weight, it was time to focus on his long-term health. He still works with AEW in a backstage and commentary role, but fans who grew up watching him in WWE can hardly believe it's the same man. Mark Henry's evolution is a reminder that even the strongest men eventually change. But change doesn't always mean weakness, it can also mean survival. And while Henry's transformation came with age and health adjustments, the final entry on our list is a complete reinvention, one of identity, body, and life itself. Tyler Rex. Tyler Rex wasn't a main event star in WWE, but fans who remember him from a tall, muscular competitor with long hair and a surfer-inspired persona. At nearly 250 pounds, he had the build WWE typically valued. Though his career was short and mostly spent in mid-card roles, his physique made him stand out. When he left WWE in 2012, many assumed he would simply fade away from the spotlight. But in 2020, Rex, now living as Gabby Tuft, made headlines worldwide. Tuft came out publicly as a trans woman, revealing her gender transition in an emotional announcement that was met with an outpouring of support from both fans and fellow wrestlers. What shocked people most wasn't just the revelation, but the transformation itself. The powerhouse WWE star fans remembered was now Gabby Tuft, embracing a new identity that looked and felt completely different from her past life. Gabby has since become a vocal advocate for transgender rights, sharing her journey openly on social media and in interviews. She has talked about the challenges of transitioning later in life, including losing her marriage but remaining best friends with her ex-wife. Physically, her transformation has been striking, from a rugged, muscular WWE mid-carder to a softer, more feminine presentation that shocked fans who hadn't seen her in years. Unlike many others on this list, Gabby Tuft's transformation isn't about decline or tragedy. It's about becoming who she truly is. Her story is proof that transformation can be about authenticity, courage, and rebirth. In a business built on characters and reinvention, Gabby Tufts is perhaps the most powerful transformation of all.